before you the summary of the minutes of our meeting on September the 10th. Any question about any of those items in there? Might need to talk about some of them. Again, that probably have been underway. For example, the stormwater, TCAT, things on there as far as Roseville is concerned. And the Atkinson that you created is with their program. Anything else on there that we need to put on the agenda today?
You want a motion to approve the minutes?
Yes, please.
I'll move.
We'll move to a second.
Second.
Second. Thank you. All those in favor, let it know by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. Motion's carried. Okay, Tony, we'll begin with you.
Let's see, Durham Landing, our new road at, off of Merchants Green that'll serve the Public Works compound, actually has pavement now. We've got sidewalk. That phase one site prep is just about complete. We're almost ready to hand that project off to Merit Construction, who will be doing the building going vertical. They've got a contract, they've ordered materials, we're getting that done. So that project will continue to make a great deal of progress. Heritage Park, we've got a lot of site work done. We've got tomorrow night, council will consider.
Before you get there, let me ask you a question is, are you going to use the roads that have been built there for the construction roads? Or are you going ahead, is there another road out towards Colgate for the construction process?
Yeah, the construction, they'll go down Howell Road.
Huh?
Howell Road.
Yeah,
That'll be the construction area, yeah.
has that been done?
Yeah, basically the area going down, the heavy stuff, the deliveries will all come down Howell Road. So our new road will remain in good shape.
Okay.
Heritage Park, tomorrow council's gonna finalize the order for one of those mobile restroom units that will be set on the park. Andrews Construction continues to work, getting the site ready, and hopefully we'll begin to see some masonry work and things going vertical on that piece. The stormwater project at Fresh Hour is making progress. We're lining that line there to keep it from collapsing. It's a pretty interesting process. That one's moving well. As soon as they finish that one, they will move to Cumberland at the railroad. It's a very complicated site to work because it's a state right-of-way next to the railroad right-of-way, and we've got stormwater projects. So we ended up at our last meeting approving a permit with the railroad for the right to work in their right-of-way that cost us $41,000. They will send flagmen down to watch our progress on our site. It's going to be an expensive repair, but if we don't do something, it's going to fall in right there by the railroad. So that is a project that's moving forward. We should see something in the next month or so in terms of construction at that site. Moving on down Cumberland, the Greenway construction you can begin to see now along the road. We tried to get a nice, pretty Greenway project along the railroad. That property acquisition didn't work out. Our timeline with the grant money made us move, so we're taking it parallel to Cumberland. You can see where it's going to be now. It will be an attractive Greenway connecting from basically city center down to about Cherokee.
Where, Tony?
To Cherokee Drive.
Runs behind the old health department.
Yeah.
And then Is there any plans to go on from there, or is that the end?
Yes,
of it?
we've got phase 5 already designed. We'll need to get a little further along in getting this one built, and then we'll go back to the state for our next phase grant. But they take forever to get done. They don't move very quickly. Jack, you mentioned TCAT. The city has approved abandonment of the right-of-way on Rosedale. The only details remaining on that one is negotiating between the Boys and Girls Club and TCAT for that end there that they will share as a private drive. And we're working with TCAT on getting the necessary environmental review and surveys done for the bigger site to be transferred to them so they can begin construction of the school expansion. So at this point, most of what we're doing is waiting for the state to get their pieces ready to go. Atmos Energy, you recall we, at the industrial board, they voted to sell a piece of property in ETPC to Atmos. Council's approved that sale. We're currently working with them on preparation of the deed. It has not yet been executed, but there's no problems getting it done. It's just lawyers talking to lawyers.
And let me, is Atmos aware that their plans have to be submitted to the industrial board for approval?
Yes, I'll make sure that they're reminded of that, but they should be aware of that. We did, council finally approved the annexation of the Carlisle property out by the lake. So that residential development will be moving. That will be a fairly significant addition to our housing stock if we get that going. So we're excited about that. And we've got a lot going on for the city, a lot of projects. Through the winter, we'll continue to make progress, and we'll try and keep you updated.
Is this class 3 landfill at Lowland, which was on here, is that basically, Tony, Lowland is such a mess. Anyway, is that the old Inca village, or do you know where the old Inca?
No, it's between the other two landfills, is basically, it ties the landfills together into one block. Now, class 3 is construction and demolition debris, so it's block and lumber and construction materials. It's not household garbage.
And when you said, I suppose that's the question I'm asking. How many landfills have you got out there?
3?
But you got the BASF landfill, which is over there on the back, which BASF still owns. And the city and the county have nothing to do with that. That's their landfill. And then there was a landfill where the Inca Village was. Do you know where the Inca Village was?
So, yes, that's the, used to be Tidy Waste Industries now.
It's in operation.
Is it still in operation? All right, and now there's another one being built?
There's another one that exists,
I think where the asbestos.
Where the ballpark was? Closer to, where is it?
It's the Lensing Fibers is the way that I've heard referred to, but it's back there on that same side. They're basically all in a line.
So it would in essence tie the Lensing property to the old Inca Village property. Is that what you're saying? In between the two? Between the polyester plant and the Inca Village?
It's to the east of the pond that was out there, if that helps. The old pond, it's behind the power plant toward the river.
And the only concern, probably it's too late now, but and maybe nobody else has this concern. Basically, at one time, we had 600 acres out there. It was reasonably flat. had all the utilities to it. Is with the sewage treatment plant, of which the city has spent a lot of money in redeveloping, is my understanding, is functioning now. And putting its water line out there, and then of course, massive electrical type thing out there. I suppose, I just want to discuss it just a minute. Apparently, of course, you've got, let's take each one of them. Does anybody have any interest in ever redeveloping any of that or an industrial piece of property?
We sat down with the three principal landowners that would have the big pieces that remain at the old plant. Really, it's three
That's
principal
Charlie
landowners.
and
Farrah
and
and Nichols.
Nichols.
And they were discussing how they could work together and work with us to redevelop that. They brought somebody in that is trying to help them with those plans, and we've had preliminary conversations, and they're trying to find out how the best way to do that. It appears that, Marshall, you sat in on that last meeting, we told them the easiest way for us to redevelop was to have a flat, clean pad ready to go. They choked a little bit at the idea of the cost that it would take to get that done. So they're
What
looking
now?
at, they don't want to have to clear the site and make it pad ready. What they're trying to do is to make it leasable space for what they've got. Is that a fair way to say it, Marshall?
Yep.
Yeah. And I hate to say this in this regard, and I'll be kind. Obviously, those people that you're talking about, their primary interest, obviously, because they have an investment in there, and it should be, is to try to get the best dollars that they can from their investment. And what that's turned into being out there is a 20-year disaster for both the city, not the government, but for Morristown and Hennepin County and surrounding counties, because people wanted to make money off of it. And basically what you've got now is you've got where the rayon plants were, just to put it in perspective, is that's an EPA site. And on the wire, they say it'd take $3 million to clean that up. Does anybody know anything about that? Was that discussed in the day?
I don't know about that piece of it. It's several $1 million to clean the site. It's several million. The 10 was the number.
I think it's
Ten's what I've heard.
10 million to clean the old rayon sites. And then you've got 1 million square feet in the Farrah building, of which the tower is solid asbestos. Did that come up in your meeting?
Basically, they're leaving that alone, the tower.
And on top of that problem, he's got 100,000 square feet filled with leaded glass. It's another $2 million problem that they'll have to pay to have hauled off and the building cleaned.
What now?
So another $2 million on top of that, because they've got 100,000 square feet full of leaded glass.
That was left by a previous tenant.
And then you've got,
It's the fire department.
then you've got the polyester plant, sitting over there. So, and answer, just to where we realize, from where we are, and I hate to say this way, the millions of dollars that you just spoke about, to clean that up, the city or county could certainly not afford to do that. And I suppose what I'm saying is, from a realistic standpoint, as far as our records are concerned, basically, what once was a very vibrant industrial site in our area, over 600 acres, basically is turned into landfill after landfill after landfill. And worse than that, as it stands, we have no plans to, all we have is talk, reconstructing it as an industrial site.
The positive things that we got going are, of course, you mentioned the wastewater plant, that's up and operational. MUS has moved forward with the idea of building the water tank and the water main that will bring adequate water pressure down to that site where they can get fire protection. And that's something I think that MUS approved, moving forward with acquisition of the tank site for that water system. And then this group is exploring with EPA and the Appalachian Regional Commission the idea of grants that might clean the site up. That's the direction we're trying right now, but it's, like you said, more talk than action.
Well, and the EPA and the Appalachian Regional Commission, let's face it, it's not going to do that for 3 private individuals. That's not going to happen in your lifetime or mine, or probably the history of Morristown. So, it is a wild thought. I'm just asking the question, I'm not suggesting. Would there be any possibility of getting the 3 people that own that, because they're not going to get the money, and unless they want to continue to invest their money? Is there any interest in our community in buying it if we could get the funds? If the city and the county may be able possibly to get a grant, Appalachian Regional Commission money, or other money, EPA money from someplace, to making it a city and county project. They're not going to be, the private investors are not going to be able to get the money to do it from a government agency. But if we went to the Appalachian Regional Commission, the government, the federal government, the state government, for a grant, which would include buying it, is there any possibility? Are we interested? I'm not proposing it. I'm just saying that, you know, it's kind of, for those, when Bill was little, the guy running around here to see 4,500 jobs out there on that site, to see it in total burns. And that's what it is, and that's been that way for the last 10 or 15 years. And it's going to stay that way under the present circumstances. And the only way, please don't print this, or let it be known, but the only way you're ever going to solve that problem is you're gonna have to get one of these big democratic projects that they just give you X billions of dollars to fix it. And do we wanna try for that? Now, the first try for that would be to get those three people that you met with to say that they'll sell it for X. And then, once we've got that, you've got, basically, you don't have 600 acres left because you've got X number of acres now that are landfill. And that's, I don't know where the land use of it, is it worth even talking about? And I stop with that and say, Gary, Bill, Tony, what do you guys think? Is it worth even wasting our time to talk about? Now, the reason I say that, the water tank that you just talked about doesn't really make a dam for that site for water. Now they've approved that. Who cares whether we can put out a fire in the landfill? We can wait for rain. Now, on the other hand, I know who's on what boards and why we got the approval to extend the line out there, and I don't want to say nothing about that. Keep my mouth shut about it. But there is other industrial land in that particular area that might be better for us to, at that exit, what is it, 12? For us to look at from, rather than trying to reincarnate a dead monster. It'd be a hell of a lot cheaper for us to think about that exit or somewhere around that exit, because you're pretty soon going to be out of land in May. Now, whether you realize it or not, we need this group is long-range planning, in my opinion, needs to begin to think, do we want to try to reincarnate the dead monster, or do we want to try to find another 1,000 acres somewhere in that area in the next 5 or 10 years?
Right now, Marshall, some of those buildings are warehousing, several 100,000 square feet. Is that, I don't know the numbers.
I think Furrow possibly may have 1 million in his field.
He's got 1 million square feet now on plant.
But
The
it's,
whole plant was originally 1 million square feet.
but he's got people paying him rent. There's
Yeah,
people in there.
knowing Farrah, he would certainly be collecting rent if he could possibly could. But likewise, Farrah is going to pay no, and I'm not saying this disparagingly, but Farrah is not going to as long as he can collect rent, he's probably not interested in
Improving the property.
improving his property. Thank you.
Well, I don't think that the city is going to be in a position to pay money for the site. I think we'd have to look long and hard if they wanted to donate it, and all we had to do was redevelop it. That's a possibility we could explore, is if they could donate it, take the tax advantages on their side, and we could get the ARC money to clean the site up. That's a path forward there. But like you said, compare that to a greenfield, the cost of development, it's gonna be hard to make those numbers work.
Yeah.
I don't, with all the capital projects that we've got, kind of agree with Tony. I don't see the commission appropriating.
I think it's kind of low on the city's priority list, actually. We got things going too, and the owners are stirring, and the owners are looking for answers, and I know their answers are influenced by how much can we make on our investment, but what appeals to me is letting them donate it as opposed to us buying it. I believe what Tony's saying on that. It's, there's things happening with water and sewer and water treatment and potential for fire protection. We wouldn't do that unless there's some definite business interest going in, industrial interest. We wouldn't do that, but we'd be ready to and make it enticing for somebody else to invest. I'm not much enthused about the city getting too involved there, spending money out there.
Well, like I said, in other words, so not, as far as our planning and thinking long range, it's just what you're telling me, I just wanted to know if I was nuts, which I generally am. There's probably no need in trying to spend our money.
I'd say nuts, I just think we don't need to be terribly aggressive with it. Just let others who may have a higher interest, see what their aggressiveness brings.
That's fine, Mayor, and I concur, but you see, those people seem to have influence, doing things like building the sewage plant, building more landfills, getting the water line done to various, you're spending money, and you're headed down a dead-end street. And that's the problem. I agree with you 100%, except that, and our best efforts would probably, you've answered my question, in our thinking and our looking and our planning, probably would not be that site. It would probably be a different site, because you concur with that, Tony.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think we can find other land we can serve that would be easier to develop.
And the nice thing about it, though, from whatever it's worth, is you do have the sewage treatment plant.
Right.
And that's a major, major factor of anything that you develop about that 81 corridor, all the way to Bulls Gap. So, okay, so just quit worrying about it, quit thinking about it, quit talking about it, whatever happens. Okay, Bill?
Just some updates from the last meeting. Our playground equipment's been installed at Cherokee Park. Having to add some more rubber mulch to meet some safety guidelines, but other than that, it's finished. Replacement of the bathhouse in the campground at Cherokee Park is out to bid. WIOA is actively looking for a new location for the American Job Center, or the Career Center. So they'll be looking for some office space. I don't have the specifics on how many square feet they want, but I'll be getting that this week. The county submitted a grant application to establish a recycling convenience center at the landfill, and we should know in January whether we're awarded that grant. And the trauma board has, it's approaching the legislature about modifying its purpose for the property to expand it to warehouse distribution, light manufacturing, as well as agribusiness. And then our jail project debate is continuing. So we have a meeting next week.
You thought about just turning the prisoners loose on the street, letting them run down the street shopping, working at it for 5 or 6 years now. In other words, maybe if you turned all the prisoners loose, maybe you could get a decision out of the court. That's not reasonable, I don't suppose either.
That's all I've got. That's all I've got.
Okay, Marshall?
So we had our site certification visit, what day was that?
October 16th.
The 16th, and that seemed to go pretty well. They made the comment that ours was one of the easiest visits they had ever had, so that was good. That means Jody did her job and had all the paperwork in order. So they're pretty impressed with the site. They were excited, I guess, because of the size of it. They said there's not many of those east of Nashville. So that was nice, and what that certification could lead to for us is potential grants. So the day of the visit, they committed some money to us for some site studies as well, some core drillings, to make sure if a prospect comes that we have those things in hand and can hand them and show them it's a good site. And then we'll be also applying for $1 million. You already applied for $1 million? We're in the process of applying.
The
3 applications in.
The application's in, they needed a few clarifying documents to go along with it.
So, we'll,
When do we think we'll know about whether we're gonna get the grant or not?
is that spring usually?
No, January.
January.
Mhm.
So, hopefully if we don't get $1 million, we get some of it. $1 million would be preferable.
Anything else?
Grants, Governor's Conference was last week on economic development, and Morristown was kind of the highlight of the conference with the Drive to 55 and our TCAP being there, and then with some of our projects we've done, so that was nice. The Van Hool people were in town some last week and then at the Governor's Conference and had a session, so that was kind of nice to get patted on the back for our TCAT and our city and our county. The state was really complimentary, and the governor and the company was really complimentary of what we've done. So that was nice. I think we'll see that project start moving dirt in the spring, and they've got their timeline in their head, and it seems like they're moving toward it. So they said they're pretty pleased. They're already getting some orders from the U.S. and from the Caribbean on some transit buses. So that was interesting. So,
That is it.
yeah.
Didn't they say it's gone better than they anticipated?
Yeah, they said it's a lot better than they thought so far.
It's the business.
Yep. And I didn't know this, but Phil,
Red tape that you've gotta go through to build, set up a new company, I reckon.
well, I learned this in Belgium. You know, they've got their buses out there, and in Europe, your bus is just one big windshield. It's just a windshield, a regular, like a car windshield. Buses that come to the U.S. have to have a split down the middle. And that's because back in the day when you had Greyhound buses, quite often, if the window broke out of the driver's side, he had to be able to finish his trip so he could switch that window to the passenger side and switch them back. I guess back in the days when windows broke all the time, it made sense. But so they're still following 50, 60-year-old regulations for the U.S. And they said the U.S., it's kind of like any lobby in Washington. There's glass companies that lobby for that, so they can sell 2 pieces of glass instead of 1.
Are you saying that the Congress of the United States is a mess?
I wouldn't say that on
That's what
video.
Hillary Clinton said.
I wouldn't say that on video, but they could use some work.
Let me bring up one subject that's really not either of your government's involvement. One of the priorities that we've tried to focus on, which I'm asking if we need help in the development of Panther Creek State Park, and I know that you people don't spend any money there, but what do you think about the possibility of you guys, which you're the leaders of, passing a resolution asking the state to at least in the development of our park, Panther Creek State Park, ask them to build some cabins out there, 10 or 15, 20 cabins out there. It's been since Frank Clement was governor that we got the park, and we've got the road, and we got the picnic tables, we got a swimming pool, we got a campground, and that's about all in the hell we've got. And obviously, to get that done, I'm asking if maybe you folks could write Senator Sutherland, the governor, and the Commissioner of Parks and Recreation, because of I think you could count it because of the economic growth of this area which was clearly pointed out at the governor's conference, of which you just attended, that it would be great if we could emphasize the park, Panther Creek State Park, just a bit more, and this might be where we could get a foot in the door, and maybe get 15 or so cabins built out there. And, would you guys be willing to poll your folks to see if you could get a resolution passed, ask Sutherland and the governor or commissioner or whoever you ask to do that? Are you opposed to doing that?
Well, they already allocated some money out there for the type of a large meeting cabin or an event center or an assembly center out there at the, on that land where Molly always holds their employee picnic. Perky and Sutherland both made reference to that.
Well, in other words, I think they're blowing smoke unless we can get the city and the county behind it.
Is it part of our cabin's part of the master plan for the park?
Yeah, they have been. Fact of the matter is, if you'd like to see the original development, I've got the book. Not a damn thing's been done in 55 years.
The former park manager came to the chamber maybe a month ago, and he kinda seemed to have it, and he said, you know, I wanna push for that. He said, I wanted it when I was here, and he said, I've already got the design
John?
where it was supposed to
John
go.
Woodrow?
Yes, he's working for another state agency now, maybe T-Dot,
I'm just saying, if the city and the county and the
T-Dec.
chamber board, Mr. President, and if, in the industrial board, if we meet, could pass a resolution to the powers that be, officially asking that be done. I don't know there'd be any, it sure as hell not gonna hurt anything. We're not gonna get anything unless you do. Can we?
Do we know, is it cabins or cabins and a conference center, both?
Maybe our next meeting here, do you wanna get somebody here, Steve or somebody to talk about it?
You said John had.
John LaCroix says he had.
I don't know
He
that
has
you
plans.
got,
But I think it may be the older stuff.
hey, I don't know that you can wait for another meeting. You're fixing to,
Yeah.
it's in the other meeting you got in, you might ask a favor. Is a passing goodbye thing, but if you wait, you're not gonna, the budgets, guys, the budget for the state's being done now for 2019. And if you're going to ask for the conference center and cabins or whatever your development has to be done, we need to do it in the next couple of weeks before we meet in December. We're a little bit, we should have talked about it before. I don't think it's too late to talk about it now, because the chamber board will be meeting, the city meets, the county meets, and it costs us nothing to ask. And if you think it would be of help, what the hell we got to lose? Anybody opposed to doing that?
I think we've got a stronger case for cabins than meeting facilities, but that's my personal preference.
And I'll say, based on discussions I've had with retail developers and hotel developers, there's potential for other space, large space being built that you hate if somebody in town can make money doing it, it's gonna tie to a nicer hotel project, that you tie it to our park.
Say that again, how are you thinking about doing it?
I'm not thinking about it.
No, what I'm saying, are you saying that one of the
Yes.
town is interested in doing the building in the state park?
No, in town.
Okay. The meeting space you're talking about?
And hotel, yeah, convention center is what they call it.
Okay.
But I think going forward, looking for cabins would be in everybody's interest and an easy thing to do.
Yeah. All right, let's just see what we can do with it, okay? Anything else on the agenda? Anybody?
We'll adjourn.
Well, we adjourn, thank you.